and Weckham genties and ladlemen, it is in fact your boy, Sir Edward, and we are here with episode 7 of Cracking the Shell. This is 7, not 6, because I called the last one 5, because I'm an idiot and not professional. But this time we have got Rory from Void Slaughter and formerly of Rend Asunder. How are you doing, my man?
I am doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm very happy to hear that. So, before we talk about obviously Void Slaughter's new tune, what you're doing now and stuff, I'd quite like to roll the clock back a wee bit and find out about wee baby Rory and metal and music and how the fuck we all fell into this absolute chaotic scene that we're in.
Wow. I started kind of going to metal shows. Um, it must have been about when I was about in uni, which is crazy. Like how long ago that was. Like, whenever I get memories on Facebook coming up, being like, "Oh yeah, this was 8 years ago," and it's like something from like university. I'm
Oh,
like,
I know.
"Oh, how did that just fly
Eight
by?"
eight years
Um,
ago. It's mad,
yeah.
isn't it?
Um, it's absolutely mental. And so yeah, so I started going to gigs around about that time. I'd been to a couple of shows here and there before then, but um, I started really kind of knuckling down and really kind of getting into going to these sort of shows around about then. And yeah, I kind of just started off with just like people that I'd met through uni because I was studying music at uni. So a lot of people on my course were either in bands or doing sort of similar stuff. So I kind of just started going to gigs off the back of that. I just very quickly just really enjoyed the kind of the ethos of not shows not having to be like playing to thousands of people. It can be a more close knit thing because I've always preferred kind of just smaller spaces for that sort of stuff. I can't really be arsed with massive crowds, especially these days. It's too much for me.
Mm.
So I've always kind of preferred that. And so seeing how accessible that was really what the initial appeal was to me.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same. Like you're very rarely going to see me in places like the Hydro. And it
Yes.
wasn't until like this year that I actually went to, I suppose, like a huge venue like the Academy. I went to the
Yes. Yeah.
Academy for the first time in March. That was for Ailstorm because I'm one of those nerds. I know I'm sorry. My death metal
Nothing
cred
wrong with
has
that.
fucked
Nothing wrong with
off right out the window. My
that.
first show ever was Sabaton and Ailstorm. I know. I'm a
Uh,
nerd.
I think my first ever metal gig, like back when I still had to have parental supervision, was Amon Amarth. So I
Oh, I'd
I
love
could
to
I
see
could
him
I
on
could
a Marth.
empathize on that side of things.
Yeah, but you started off with a cool band. Now I'm just like, oh wow, memes and
I mean, they're certainly not cool now. I'm not a huge fan of the stuff that I'm on a Martha pumping out these days. It's about as close to pop rock as you can get. It's a shame to see, but I respect
eh,
the grind. I respect the hustle. If that's what's getting them that bag and that's what's getting them, getting by, then fair enough. I'll just find other stuff to listen to.
yeah. There's a few tunes here and there, like The Way of Vikings, I quite like,
Hmm.
but pretty much anything past like Twilight, the Thunder God, it's not my bag.
Yeah,
There's
no, I
still
was
some
very much
cool,
the same.
still some cool songs in there, but in terms of albums as a whole, Twilight, the Thunder God, I'd say is like the last like mecca
Yeah, there was a
for me.
definite kind of cutoff point. Like, Deceiver of the Gods was I think that had pretty much just dropped by the time I went to go see them.
Mhm.
And like that's one of those albums where it's like there's maybe like two or three really solid like tracks off the album, but as a whole, it just never held up to the stuff that was released up to that point.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah,
but
yeah.
they've got a very good catalog up until that point. Like it's proper solid stuff that they've released, but nah, everything after that's just been so flaky. It's just it's not for me.
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of agree there. I mean, with Odin on our side, is still for me, like front to back bangers.
Yes,
Absolutely,
absolutely.
such a good album. Um, so when did you start getting into bands outside of like obviously you're going to gigs as a spectator? When did you start kind of going on the other end of things and being on the stage?
It's a kind of weird story. I went to go see Rend Asunder, and this is going to be a really long time ago. I wish I could give you a year and a date. I should have done a wee bit of research and put it, but I'd gone to see them because I'd met Angus Dumbreck, their drummer, through university, because Angus's dad was actually one of my lecturers. Um, and the band I was in at the time, my uni band, we did a kind of like an exchange project where we had bands come over from Europe to do shows in Glasgow, and then we would hold a kind of almost like a battle of the bands type thing where you would kind of aim to get shows over in Europe and kind of do like a kind of reverse thing. And our band got selected to go out to play in Germany at a festival out in, I believe it was Plattenberg, but I could be wrong. Again, it's one of these ones where it's so long ago. But yeah, so we got flown out to Germany and played a kind of like a warm up gig, kind of in the middle of nowhere at this kind of rock pub, which was great. Just like getting driven out into like the misty hills of Germany. And it's just even like, oh, okay, this is just like going to be like a black metal music video shoot. And then we just rock up at this pub and it's just full of like, your bikers and rockers and everything. It was a really cool vibe. So we did the warm up gig there and then played the actual festival itself like the next day, which was again a really great experience, a lot of fun. And just through that's where I met Angus, and he'd mentioned that he was in like a brutal death metal band, and I was like, right, okay, I want to take note of that because the kind of stuff that I would love to listen to. And then I managed to go and get to see them at 13th Note, and again, I'm trying to get a date in my head, but I can't mind it. It was a very long time ago, put it that way. And right at the front, really enjoying myself at the show. Um, and kind of came away from it just being like, yeah, great experience. That was awesome. And then it must have been a good few months later. I'm at my old job, where I live just now, just at the local restaurant, just washing dishes. And I check my phone and I've got like 5-10 missed calls from Kane Butcher. And I'm like, oh, this is odd. Like, and I kind of messaged him when I got a second, and he's like, yeah, we need someone to do vocals for us because we're supporting Cranium at the end of the month and we don't want to pull out, but we don't have a vocalist. And it was just so like out of absolute nowhere. And I'm like, I'm sure, absolutely. I'd never done death metal vocals or anything like that properly before. I'd done some kind of like harsh, kind of shouty stuff in my old band, but not proper like death metal stuff. So I was like, right, I'm gonna really need to lock in. Um, but it was just like, yeah, just like seemingly out of nowhere, just to be asked was like being asked initially was just like a really like nice thing, like whether or not I was able to do it or not. But sure enough, like I said to them, well, I'll try my best to learn a set. I might have to ad lib most of it, but they were happy with that. Again, they didn't want to pull out of the gig because Cranium's a great band to be supporting.
They are.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. One of the most like kind of influential slam bands that are still going these days. One of the biggest names, I would argue. And so they didn't want to pull out, and I didn't want to let them down. So I was like, right, I'll do my best. So yeah, so sure enough, I managed to squeeze in a couple of like practices up and down to Glasgow. And then we did the gig and it was great. It was a great vibe. I can't even mind exactly what the lineup was. I want to say it was Cranium obviously headlining, and then I think it was um Behead the Prophet, a kind of another local band, and a band called Female Nosebreaker. And they were sick as well. It was a really good night, but it was just such a like a whirlwind thing, just out of nowhere, to just be like washing dishes to being on the stage supporting Cranium like in a matter of weeks. But yeah, it went from there, and that's how I kind of joined up with the Rend and Asunder lads.
I mean, in terms of like your first show, you couldn't ask for a better one.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
it really was. It was a great way to start things off. Absolutely.
So after you do that gig with the Rend the Asunder guys, how long was it before you kind of started writing the EP, and how did it feel going from playing a show to actually being involved with the creative process?
So they had a lot of the songs pretty much ready to go by the time that I joined up with them. A lot of it was kind of just like tightening up certain areas and maybe changing little bits to kind of fit in now that they had someone on vocal duties for them. Um, so I didn't have a lot of like input in terms of like the like song structures and how things would go, but a lot they kind of gave me just kind of a lot of creative freedom in terms of like vocal structure, that where I wanted to come in and bits and pieces, and like the dynamics of where we were going to have maybe like high screams and lows and maybe kind of slammy kind of vocal bits here and there. So that was cool. Like I could kind of just see the songs as kind of like a nice little canvas for me to just kind of work my way around. So that was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, so it was we did like a good few shows, a good handful of shows before even like recording the EP was even like on our horizon. So a lot of it was kind of just me testing the waters each gig, trying to see okay if this works, if this doesn't work, um, and just trying to like essentially winging it, but trying to find that balance of not thinking about it too much, so that I'm just kind of standing there thinking about it, but also like finding out what would actually work for when it did come to recording. So it's like trying to find that balance because like I I've never enjoyed just kind of standing still on stage. I like throwing myself about. I like putting on a show. I like getting into the music. So it was finding that balance between taking note of things that would work for when it came to actually getting the EP down, and also just enjoying it to make the show actually like worthwhile watching. And it was good because we got a lot of people who would like do either like videos of the shows. Kane himself would often have like the camera set up and just record everything, which it was crazy because the amount of footage that he would have to like work through, but it was also a good resource to then look back on and be like, okay, these bits worked well, these bits maybe didn't or could be changed up. So when it came to actually writing or like writing the vocal parts for the EP and then getting those bits written down, I had a lot more confidence going into it. Like the actual process of getting them down was a bit of an iffy one, just because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and if something doesn't sound quite how I want it to sound, and I'm not able to quite achieve that, it can get stuck on my head quite a bit, and it can kind of irk me down a bit. But we managed to get like the vocals on the EP recorded in like a matter of like an afternoon. We didn't make a big thing of it. We wanted it to sound quite raw, just with the nature of the sound. And like anyone who's listened to Cerebral Labyrinth, the EP itself, like it's raw. Like it's raw. It's like we weren't going to try and tighten up every little element of vocals to get it to sound like absolutely perfect. We just wanted it to be this raw wall of noise, and that's ultimately what we were able to produce.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think that kind of very loose kind of vibe is what's needed for death metal. If you want like everything perfectly snapped to the grid and shit, there's thrash metal, there's tech death for that. But
Yes,
when it
absolutely.
comes to like slam riffs and old school death metal, I think it's more about vibe than anything else. At least for
Yeah,
me as a listener. That's why I like a lot of bands like Coffin Mulch and Penny Coffin, Rancid Cadaver, because
yes.
they're not super tight, but it is tight enough to where
it's
it
it's a
sounds
different
good.
kind of tightness
It's a
almost.
different
It's a
kind of
different
tight,
kind
and
of
it just
tightness.
sounds
Yeah.
good, as
Yes.
opposed to everyone just kind of like headbutting their instruments and going, right, lads, EP done.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
But there's always a place in my heart for, the more technical element and everything being snapped to the grid and stuff. But when
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
comes
There's
to,
obviously its time and its place. Yeah.
but whenever I sit down to like listen to some death metal, usually it's either stuff like Melodeath, like I've been listening to a lot of Children of Bodom lately,
Yeah.
or just like pure, stupid, in your face, slammy nonsense.
Yes.
There's never a kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
It's usually either Children of Bodom or like cephalotripsy or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Just getting both ends of that, like proper.
It
Yeah.
it's great. And cephalotripsy finally released their second album.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just that we thought that was never going to happen, but
It happened,
honestly,
and
just
it's
the
good.
way that the world works, we have been blessed. We have been
We have
blessed.
been blessed, and plus with Angel being in Abominable Putridity as well. I
Mm.
really like that
Mm.
album that he did with them. It's so different, but it just sounds killer.
Yes. Yeah. Just the proper, just grotty, heavy stuff that like I've definitely got a soft spot for.
Oh, definitely love Abominable Putridity.
Yeah.
I can't speak. That's how
Trying to pronounce the names of the bands. I usually just be like, oh, that one with that album cover, or that one with that song, because
has
trying to
it
say the
has it
names,
got
I trip myself
tentacles
up.
and usually somebody dying, then yeah, it's slam art.
Yeah.
It's fine. Unless you're like peeling flesh and everything looks like a rap album now, which to be fair, they nail it.
Yeah.
We need to think of something like that for like new Void Slaughter stuff, because you've got like the stupid gory tentacle like slam album covers, then you've got hip hop album covers. We need to find a thing that
Yeah,
like fits that, like something just super different, because that's what
yeah,
you
exactly. Like
immediately
something that's gonna,
notice.
cause yeah, that's the thing. Is that especially like these days, that when you're trying to like do like a lot of the promotion side of things, if you're wanting something to stand out, you've got to kind of make something that's just that little bit like different, just have that unique selling point, so that people aren't just gonna scroll past it straight away. Because it's
Yeah.
like music is like, obviously it's great that music is so accessible in terms of like people can just pick up an instrument and start creating music, but what that means is it just means that trying to find something that you generally be interested in might just take a bit of a longer process, or might be a bit more difficult. So yeah, trying to get that unique selling point straight from the get-go is always a worthwhile endeavor.
Definitely. It's a lot, especially from, I mean, both the musician perspective and then as the fan perspective, you have to rake through a lot of generic, boring sounding muck to find that
Yes.
thing that just clicks, even if it does sound similar to said generic kind of crap, but there's just that thing that's like, ooh, that tickles my brain in just the
Yes.
right spot.
Yeah.
Like Peeling Flesh, prime example. I've
Mm.
been listening to Slam for years, Gorepot, Cephalotripsy, pretty much anything Larry Wang's involved in,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that man is insane.
He just knows what he's doing. Yeah.
He really does. I really like that Ferocious Fetal Formulas album that he put out. It's mad proper, like really early Dying Fetus vibes.
Yeah.
But that man's
Yeah.
just making new bands out the arse with such random ass names like Ferocious Fetal Formulas.
It's like, yeah, that's like the brilliant part about like when it comes to slam and like your whole like gore noise type stuff. It's like you really can just name it anything. You can
Literally
just name it
anything.
anything
Because
at
no
all.
one's going to read the logo anyway.
No,
No
no,
one
that's
can
already gone
read
out
the
the window
logo
by that
anyway, so
point.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
And a lot of it is usually just memes at this point, which is something
Exactly.
that I love as well.
I like the idea that people can just incorporate that sort of stuff. It's like, I mean, there's some people who maybe on the purist side of things just feel like it's like, no,
Oh God,
either too
purists
memey,
and
or
for
people
the
on the
whole
other
thing.
side that take it too seriously. I like the fact that it can be a bit of both. It's just like, at the end of the day, if bands want to put out stuff that's like chock full of memes, like, good on them. There's always going to be people that listen to it. If there's people who want to take it really seriously and scrap all that and just do what they're doing, they've got every right to do
Yeah,
that as
no,
well. It's like
definitely for sure.
there's so much freedom when it comes to the extreme side of metal, that I think that's where a lot of like the appeal is, because there is just that scope for that kind of creative freedom.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're not gonna see bands like fucking Nightwish or Stratovarius do fucking air horn sound effects just
No,
randomly in
as
their
much as I think
songs.
that they could actually benefit from that. But yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's like imagine you're deep in the middle of a fucking Nightwish concert, and next thing you just hear "Brrr, real trap
They
shit.
started playing old MLG edits on the screen behind us. It's like,
Oh God, we need to
that'd be,
bring that shit back. We need to bring that
I
shit
think so. I
back.
think it's so funny. Just like, obviously on a tangent here, but everyone's like, oh, this whole skibbity toilet brain rot. Like, it's like we grew up with stuff that was just
Oh
equally
God,
as bad,
yeah.
just a different kind of bad. It's like every generation's always going to have something that's just stupidly funny for the sake of just being stupid. It's like, we're no stranger to it.
Exactly,
We're no stranger
exactly.
to it at all.
I mean, especially when people like you and I were growing up, a lot of it was that kind of Team Fortress 2 Gmod
Oh
source type
yes,
shit.
yeah,
Just, oh my God, I still love that shit so
brilliant. Yeah,
much.
exactly. And if anyone was to turn around to us and say, "Oh, that's just stupid brain rot," it's just like we'd be instantly being like, "Actually, no, this it's really funny, and you just don't get it, or whatever." So there's always going to be
Yeah, I
that
mean,
generational thing where it's just like, um, where yeah, we're always going to get kind of criticized by people who just either aren't quite in the generation for it, or just don't quite understand it. Where there's always going to be something like that. There's always going to be something like that.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not taking shit from the same generation that thinks Hawk 2 is funny.
I, I, I'm,
Fuck off.
I'm a big
Hawk
fan
2
of
is
memes.
stupid.
That's been one of the worst ones. I mean,
Oh
obviously, not
God,
every
yeah.
meme is going to be a winner, but it just it shows it shows that, yeah, just because something does become popular and because it's a meme pop, it does not always just make it good automatically.
No, it
And in
doesn't.
terms of hits and misses, that's been a big miss. But that's fine. I can move on from it.
Yeah,
Give it like 2 months, probably not even that. There'll be something else. So it's like that's
it'll
just
go
the
to the
way that's just the
graveyard
way
of
memes go these
memes.
days. Yeah.
It'll go to the graveyard of memes, like Minion memes went. I mean, they were a
Oh,
huge
yeah,
thing, and now
exactly.
it's like now they're
The
just
thing
resigned
is,
to
what I like
Facebook.
about minion memes is that they reached a point of meta irony where it's like it's now kind of become funny to use it in the sense of taking the piss out of like
Yeah.
boomers on Facebook. It's like it's kind of gone full circle, and now you can use them in a way to be funny, which I quite like. Whereas I feel like a lot of memes that are kind of like spawning from TikTok, I feel like that it almost can't even happen just because I just feel it doesn't go through the same kind of process. It kind of just it blows up. Everyone uses it for clout to get bands using it for clout. So, oh yeah, we'll just use this before a breakdown. It's like cool, original. Not seen someone do that before.
Nope.
Um, and then a month later, it's something else. But again, it's marketing. It's what it's whatever. Like I can live with it. There'll be something else in like a month's time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm loving that this kind of like again a lot of bands Peeling Flesh, Party Cannon, prime example, all these stupid fucking samples and they like Peeling Flesh change out their samples for every show. It's
Yeah,
not just the ones on like that you hear on the recordings. They
yeah,
change it up.
that's a cool thing. Yeah,
And I think that's something that definitely the extreme side of metal, you can kind of do that stuff and get away with it. Whereas,
yeah,
like, if a
absolutely.
proper fucking thrash band was to start putting in old memes, you get all the, like we were talking about earlier, all these fucking purists and all these
Yeah,
elitists just like,
just
yeah,
absolutely reeing
mate.
at it. Yeah, just I'm never listening to this band again. Just
And
like,
I'm just like, hey, that's my favorite
yeah,
band.
yeah, exactly. Just
It's like all these fucking Wojak memes. You've got the no, there's bands using memes, and then we're the Chads just like, hey.
yes.
I'm loving that they're seeing a kind of like a renaissance as well. Because obviously, like
Yeah,
kind of 2010 to like 2014, 15, everybody had like the soy jack memes and stuff. And now
again,
they
yeah,
kind of went
yeah.
away for a wee bit, but then like post-COVID, it's like everything you're seeing, any
Again, yeah,
topic,
it's
it's
that
like
it's that
there's a
it's that
Wojak
full
meme for it.
circle of bringing it back with a kind of new layer of irony on the top of it that makes it relevant and still derives humor from it. So yeah, it's cool to see.
It's like one of my favorite ones that I've seen was obviously there was a couple of days ago, and this will probably be the only time that I actually get political on a podcast. It's like the other day how Trump was shot, and it's like you just see a picture of him just going like, "This was the worst assassination attempt in the history of assassination attempts."
Oh, my days on.
That's a whole thing in and of itself. I have my opinions. I think it's a giant fucking conspiracy. There's no way in hell that actually happened. It's all for clout. But fuck it. This isn't a politics podcast. If you want
No,
that shit, go
exactly,
go find
exactly.
fucking Alex Jones on
Yeah,
like
we'll
go find him on like
we'll say it to
Vimeo
be
or
the
some
experts
shit.
on that.
Because that's
Yeah.
probably where he's been since he got kicked off YouTube. I'm sure he's just like spamming shit in fucking Vimeo or like VK or
Aye,
some
something
shit,
like that. Yeah.
some like black market obscure video platform that like five people on the planet watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, massive tangent about memes aside, which I love tangents because there's only
Me
so
too.
much of the whole here's a question, here's an answer, here's a question,
Yes,
here's an
of
answer. That's
course.
not what this is about. This is about like the kind of idea I had with going into this was imagining you're like a fly in the wall of just pals hanging out. You get the obvious stuff, like obviously promoting stuff, and like I always like to start off with kind of finding out about people's upbringing and finding music and stuff because I
Yeah,
think it's a really interesting journey to talk about because everybody has their own journey.
yeah, absolutely.
But then everything beyond that, just let's see where conversation takes me. Like I remember I had Darren from the Head of the Traitor on a podcast a few episodes ago. We just started talking about what makes the perfect burger and shit, and just stuff like that. I love the
A
randomness
very
and
a very worthwhile topic. A very worthwhile topic.
it is a very worthwhile topic, which, well, seeing as we mentioned it, in your opinion, what makes
In
the
my opinion,
perfect burger?
simplicity is always better.
Mm,
Simplicity is always better. No need to absolutely spaff a load of different toppings on it. Um, for me, I feel like you want crunchy jalapenos. You
mm.
want crunchy jalapenos to give a little bit of texture and obviously just that little bit of spice, but you don't need to go overboard with it. And in terms of sauces, it's really obviously like everyone's got their own preferences in that. I like a little bit of mayo on a burger, not loads, but I do like a little bit. It adds like a nice just little bit of depth to your flavor. And then if you're wanting something else, like a wee bit of like sriracha or like something like even like Frank's Red, just to like give it just a bit of
I
zing and
do
a bit
love
of
a bit of
flavor to
Frank's
it, because
Red
it's
for sure.
like Frank's Red is like it's a pretty standard hot sauce, but it's got a nice little bit of tang to it. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's all you need because you don't really need super in-depth flavors for like a burger. Like sometimes you just need that simplicity, and then again, just like a nice helping of like I say I always prefer shredded cheese rather than slices on a burger. I don't really know. It just depends, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like the key to getting the perfect burger is simplicity.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. One thing I will say that well, I can't speak today. One thing I will say is brioche buns. Get them in the fucking bin.
No, they've got a time and a place, but nowhere near burgers.
Absolutely
Keep them
not.
away from burgers. Again,
What?
time and a place, but it's no.
Why? Every restaurant that you see, and I look at their menu and I'm like, oh, they've got burgers, brioche
Aye,
bun.
aye.
Nope, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm going
and
home.
it's that same like the guy serving you is this big like checkered shirt, like beard down to here and charging like 50 quid a burger, being
Oh
like, oh
my
yeah, but we're
God.
using brioche buns, and they'll always say brioche buns. I'm just like,
It's not fancy. Burgers are not meant to be fancy. They're
no,
meant to
no,
be the working
exactly.
man's food.
Exactly. It's what you go to when it's like you're at a restaurant and everything else is just like so much going on. You're just like, I've got a little bit of the tism. I need something that I know is just going to be a solid piece of food that I can
Hmm.
eat and I will enjoy.
Oh, as someone with not just a little tism, but a lot of tism, because I don't think I've actually said this like publicly, but I am on the autistic spectrum. I
Right.
do
Yeah.
have Asperger's syndrome, which, I mean, you've seen me at shows. I'm always in metal shirts. I started a fucking podcast. Could I be any more autistic? But it's like definitely for me a burger, just simple, get in my belly, no fancy shit, no
Yeah.
fucking brioche, because brioche is trash.
Yeah.
I hate it. And everywhere does it. Why can't I just have a simple bun? I just
Exactly.
want a bun, man.
Exactly. Just like you don't need to do anything fancy. Like the fanciest thing you need to do to a burger bun, if this is at the very max, is just lightly toast it. That's the most, but like that's not even like a requirement. That's just like if
No,
you're feeling fancy, it's not the end of the world. But that's all you got to do if you're trying to be a fancy burger place is maybe just toast the buns ever so slightly. That's it.
yeah.
That's all you need to do. Like
Exactly, exactly. And also another thing, when you do have burgers, you want it to be a good sized patty. Like, don't do that Monterey Jack shit where it's like that and you finish it in 3 bites and it's just
yeah,
drowned in toppings. And I'm like,
exactly.
my brother in Christ, where the fuck's the burger? I
Yeah,
just had a
exactly.
sandwich.
Searching for it after every bite. So I know it's in
Oh,
here
I know.
somewhere. It's just like you've got like
Oh,
just
there it is.
mayo and sauce and everything going everywhere. It's just like I could swear there's a burger in here
It
somewhere.
said burger on the menu, right? This is
Yeah,
just
double
a
checking that you read it. It's like,
just
um,
wait a minute. Or is this just like some kind of deconstructed Subway sandwich?
yeah. It's like you've got to just imagine the burger, dude.
I'm waiting for a fucking restaurant to do that. That kind of weird, cringy,
it,
hippie
it's
shit.
it's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing where it's like food concepts, and they'll give you
Oh
like part of the
God.
food, and you've got to like just like lock in your chakras to like get the other bit to be there. Like, and they'll charge you like 100 quid a time. It's gonna happen.
Imagine. I will say
It's
this,
gonna happen. I'm calling it now.
I'm willing to bet it's going to be somewhere in like either the city centre of Edinburgh or in London. It's going to be stupid expensive
Oh yeah,
and it's going to be fucking awful. But you'll still
food
see people flock
psychology.
to
It's
it
gonna be it's gonna be
every
a
day.
whole thing. Yeah.
It's going to be a thing. I
Whether
will.
or not it like lasts or ever, I don't know, but like I can guarantee it's gonna be a thing. If it's not already, there might already be like things like that popping up. But I can always guarantee that there's gonna be a thing where you just imagine that you're having the food and you're charged for it.
In this TikTok generation, I fully believe
It's
that's
all
going to be a
gone
thing.
woke. It's all
It's a,
gone woke.
the hashtag not my burger.
Oh
The
goodness.
last thing I'll say on the burger tangent is the worst burger I ever had. There was a place in like Bainsford, like which is kind of near Falkirk where I live,
No.
that was called Meat in the Middle. My dad suggested it to me before COVID. Now I'm like, oh, that sounds fucking great. Meat in the
Hmm.
Middle. They sound like they know burgers. So
Yep.
I pay 17 quid for this burger. So that's already, great start.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. It's in crumpled up in a ball in a paper bag in tin foil. I open the tin foil. The burger is fucking grey.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it was the worst thing on the planet, and I am an idiot that paid 17 quid for it. I tried to post like a review on their Facebook page. It just disappeared. It just
They've
it was
got someone
trying like
hired waiting for the reviews to come in for them to just hit delete
no,
as soon
no.
as they come through. They've got someone waiting for it.
It wouldn't have surprised me if they did, or if just the owner was sat there going, "That's negative, get rid of it."
Aye.
Oh,
Oh,
it
but
was
yeah, there
fucking
is meat in
terrible.
the middle, but just don't ask us to specify what kind of meat.
It might be a dog, it might be a
Yeah,
horse.
it was whatever we found out the back of the restaurant that morning.
It wouldn't have put it past me because it just
Mhm.
looked fucking. I wish I had saved a picture of it because honestly, holy shit, it was the
It
worst. It closed
yeah,
down like I think at some point during COVID, and thank fuck for that.
yeah,
Because
it's one of these things, yeah. But just because you're paying more for a burger doesn't assure that it's going to be any nicer than something that you could get for like a fiver. Like,
yeah, honestly, the best burgers I've had are just there is a van outside where I work. Like they like rent the land off the company and like they make food and stuff. And
yeah,
I go there after work and they it's like those flat burgers, like you've seen them. Like you're kind of
yes,
your snack van burgers and stuff. And
yes.
genuinely I would rather have that than something like Meat in the Middle or even Five Guys or something, which I don't get the hype behind Five Guys.
No,
I don't
it's
get it.
like they can charge it because they've built enough of a reputation, but like the burgers themselves are like they're nice, but they're not
Not
worth what
mind
you're paying
blowing.
for. It's like, I, yeah, I've only been on a very few couple of occasions. It's definitely not a regular go to for me.
Nah. And saying that, there's not really anywhere good that does burgers anymore outside of like your chains and McDonald's burgers are just, yeah, let's not.
Yeah, it's with McDonald's, you know that they're never gonna be awful, but you're never gonna eat a McDonald's burger and go, that was amazing. Like it, you
Or
know
even
that it's
like you're
just
full because then like half an hour later you were hungry again.
yeah, it's one of these things. It's just like yeah, you're right. There isn't really many reliable places in terms of like chains to get like a decent burger these days. So someone needs to do something about that. If someone's listening at home and you're thinking about starting a food business, do decent burgers and just don't charge a arm and a leg for them.
And no fucking brioche.
I fucking you put brioche near you
That
getting
that's
chin.
something
You
I'll
get
forever
chin.
be angry about. I don't even care at this point.
No, no, me too. Me too. It's a justifiable thing to be angry about.
It is. Anyway, after this massive tangent of memes and burgers, which I'm living for, because this is the kind of thing that
Me
I love
too.
the most out of doing any of these, and it makes me even more excited for the next one, which, you know, at least for now. But next one, you're doing another one. I know, unfortunately, yes, there will be more to come, but you're
Yeah,
not
there
saying who
will
it
be
is.
more.
There will be more, and for that, I am very sorry. But anyway, so Rend Asunder went well. 2022, you leave the band, and now we've got Void Slaughter, and you recently
Yes.
dropped your new tune, Crimson Mist, and it definitely struck my attention. It was different, but different in a good way.
Yeah, so the new single from Void Slaughter, we wanted to we've been wanting to kind of like push the kind of not push the button like crazy, but like our debut single Negative Flesh is very like safe, if you will. Negative Flesh was basically we'd started the project and this was when we were still like coming up with a name and coming up with kind of an idea of what we wanted to do. And Negative Flesh was kind of written in about a span of like 5 6 hours. It's and anyone who's listened to it, would probably be able to understand it. Like there's maybe 3 or 4 different kind of riffs, and then the kind of like tremolo kind of chorusy kind of bit. But it's a solid song. I like it. It's a good jam, but it's like it's quite safe. It's quite a safe song. But we still enjoyed it, but we knew once we'd put that out and it got like a pretty decent reception and people kind of digging it, we're like, right, we can probably,
Push
be
the
more than
envelope a bit and do
yeah, we
something a
we,
bit
we can
weird and out
we
there.
can
And
start adding stuff to this. Like Alex, the guitarist, he's an incredible guitarist, extremely talented. He does all like the kind of programming of the drums and everything like that. And he gets those drums sounding as realistic as you can get them. Really, it's quite impressive how he manages to do it. And he programs in all like the bass guitar and everything like that. It's like we're still just a two-piece just now. We've got maybe some people that are maybe going to be working with us. I might be able to mention, I might not. I'll see it. I'll see how generous I'm feeling. But anyway, basically, like the long story with how we got to Crimson Mist from where we started was we we wanted to start incorporating just a little bit more here and there, a little bit of different bits and pieces. We wanted like atmospheric kind of synth and piano kind of bits coming in at little points just to kind of like lift up some melodic elements here and there. Like we never really decided we're just gonna go Melodeath because we thought we don't really want to like kind of confine ourselves to just doing that sort of stuff. We want to kind of be adding other stuff in. So we've not really kind of settled on what we would consider ourselves genre wise, which might be a bit of a wanky thing to say, but it that's where we're at just now. So when we did our 2-track demo, Rivers of Viscera, we incorporated a lot more kind of like different bits of almost like black metal kind of sounding sections and then kind of down tempo kind of sounding sections. And we managed to, you know, incorporate it into what we'd already kind of built up quite nicely. And the demo came out pretty well and got a pretty good reception. So after that, like, we were kind of like in a bit of a kind of stagnant area where we were struggling to kind of write songs because Alex is a very busy guy. I'd had to move back up from Wales because I was living in Wales at the time. I'd had to move back up for just personal circumstances and that. We were kind of both just like, right, we still want to get music done, but it was just a bit difficult, like just coordinating it. But sure enough, Alex sent me over the rough kind of the rough mix for what was going to become Crimson Mist, and I really liked it. And I was really jamming it. I was listening to it, and then it got to this kind of melodic-y kind of chorus bit, and just part of me thought, oh, maybe some clean singing over the top of that, some clean vocals, just to really piss off any purist death metal heads that might listen to it. And so I thought, you know what? So over the course of about an afternoon, I sat kind of writing out some just lyrics and vocal structures for it, and then not teaching myself to sing, but getting back into the habit of it because I'm not a great singer by any means. So I was getting myself kind of like pitching it and getting a kind of melody kind of sorted for it. And then yeah, just over the course of another day or so, once I had the kind of the second mix back from Alex, I fired out the vocals, did the lows, did the highs, did the melodic stuff, and sent it all back to Alex, being like, "Please make this sound somewhat good." But he's a wizard when it comes to like mastering vocals and everything like that. He manages to get it all sounding really beefy and that, and the final product is what Crimson Mist is now, a kind of nice, jumpy, groovy, heavy, but also melodic kind of. It incorporates a lot, but it all gels together quite well, and I think that's one of the things that people enjoy about Void Slaughter is it does pull in all these different elements but doesn't sound just like a mishmash for the sake of it. It all gels together pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. When I first heard it, it was definitely different. But as I kind of sunk my teeth into it, because obviously clean vocals in extreme music aren't a new thing. Look at a lot of, especially in the kind of death doom section, you've got like My Dying Bride, Swallow the Sun, Paradise Lost, and then you've got bands like Amorphous as well. Like they've kind of done that kind of like clean singing with like weird proggy bits and melodeath bits, but still being heavy as hell.
Yeah.
Like especially their kind of like their very early stuff, and then like a lot of their later stuff is kind of circling back to that. So it's not something completely alien. It just depends on how well you can execute it, which
Yes.
like, especially for me, Swallow the Sun are prime examples of that. Because my God, they can be both depressing and fucking brutal as hell.
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing that I love, and I lean more towards a lot of the kind of groovy, down tempo, melodic stuff than just your kind of meat and potatoes like tremolo riffs and blast beats and blah 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 blah. Which don't get me wrong, I love my meat and potatoes, but any band that does something like that, again, that kind of melodeath, kind of atmospheric, doomy, just something that fucks with the formula in some way, is generally what's going to get more attention, be it positive or negative. And that's
Yes. Yeah.
something that I would rather have a ton of negative attention than no attention whatsoever.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like we knew like off the bat that it would turn some people off like completely. and we knew on the flip side that there might be people who hear it that really dig it and prefer it over the stuff that we've released to this point. And so we didn't want to like try and get ourselves bogged down in what was going to make people enjoy it. We just wanted to really put everything we could into this track and kind of be happy with it ourselves more than anything.
Yeah.
Especially after like quite a long hiatus, as it were, like after Rivers of Viscera dropped. It had been like such a kind of stagnant bit for us, and like we were both a bit unsure. But we both knew we wanted to carry on with the project, but we were a bit apprehensive about recording from different countries and sending stuff back and forth, and how that was all going to work out, and if we were going to be able to kind of keep that same level of quality, like production wise, that we'd kind of had. And it turned out not to be an issue at all, and the end result was something that we were both really, really happy with.
Yeah, definitely. And I would rather have somebody that is really happy with their music, especially when it comes to performing live. You can kind of tell when they're playing music that they're not completely stoked on. And
Yeah.
it does kind of show. Well, obviously, I mean, any good musician will know to like give it their everything, regardless of how they feel about the material. But if you could tell that they really love what they're doing and they're having fun, that vibe just it
Makes
thingies.
a
I
huge
can't I
difference. It
can't
makes
think
it
of
makes a huge
words
difference.
because I'm
Yeah, no,
awful,
exactly.
but
It
it
goes
carries a different
from
vibe in the
like
show and to
just
the crowd and stuff.
yeah, it goes from seeing a live band to seeing a live band performing. Like it goes
Oh
from
God, yeah.
it just adds a whole new level of depth to the live show itself. And that's something that we're speaking of, like we're gonna start looking into live shows now. We both agreed that that's what we want to do. Alex has said that he's going to start setting time aside for it, and he's willing to do like travel and stuff like that. So I'm going to start speaking to promoters in Glasgow and stuff like that. And if there's anyone listening, obviously just now, hit us up. We are looking to start doing shows because we want to start kind of like getting a bit of momentum behind the project, and it's very difficult to do that if you've not played live yet. It's all
Yeah.
right to release music and that when you can, and that's great, but to actually get the word of mouth and get people actually talking about you, you need to start doing shows, you need to start doing merch, you need to start actually doing band stuff.
Yeah, be
So
a band and
we're at
not
the point
just
where
an internet thing. Yeah.
we're at the point where we can do that now. We've got enough material to start doing that. So that's kind of like our next kind of steps for us. We do have another, we've got like another song kind of like in the works just now, and then we've got a couple of people been asking us about like, oh, you're gonna be like recruiting other band members, are you gonna look to kind of up that, and as of now, like we've got a few folk that have kind of been asking about, and then we've got one guy kind of in mind, and I don't want to say just yet who that person is, but he's done work with some pretty big projects up till now, and we're very stoked to potentially have him on board with some of the Future Void sort of stuff. So like I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed right now that all kind of works out well. But regardless, myself and Alex are still going to be putting everything we can into it to keep things rolling forward.
I'm really glad to hear that, especially with, like, obviously you and I, we've known each other a wee bit, and I was like, actually just thinking before we did this, fuck, I've known him forever,
It's
because
been
it's
a
like,
while. It's been a while. I think we met at the Cannibal Corpse show back,
yeah, that's the one.
on
Yeah,
the O2 ABC. Was is that what it was? Yeah, it was the one that burnt
yeah.
down. Yeah, right. Rest in peace. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we met at that gig, and that shows both our ages there. It feels like such a long time ago. That one.
Yeah,
That must be roughly about anywhere between 8 and 10 years ago or something like that. I'd need to know.
I
I'd need
think I can because a Facebook memory came up for me a while ago. It was around the time that the Black Dahlia had released Nightbringers.
Yes,
So
because they
that
were playing
was
that gig, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was about 7 years ago, which is kind of insane now that I think about it. This was
No.
this was the Dark Ages as well when I had hair. This that was the dark time.
Oh,
But
just shows how quickly time flies, man. Just shows.
I know in that time we went through a pandemic. I lost my hair. I'd like to think I've became slightly better of a person. I mean, I don't know, probably not,
We
but
were trying. What matters is that we try. That's the main thing. because there's
That
some people
it
out there
is.
that just don't. So as long as we can say that we're trying, I think we're on to a winner from there.
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking about like the Void Slaughter material and stuff and being stoked on it. That brings to mind a quote from Alex Tane of Black Tongue. There was like they came back from their hiatus and put out Nadir, and during like their I think they put out a video or something explaining where they'd went. And something he said was, if you're recording an album and it isn't your own favorite album, you fucked up.
I like that attitude towards it. I like that attitude towards it because yeah, you don't really want to write stuff that you wouldn't necessarily listen to, and it's odd because it's like the stuff that I put out with Void Slaughter isn't very similar to a lot of the things I'm listening to, especially right now. I'm listening to a lot of grindcore. I'm listening to a lot of hardcore right now. I'm not listening to a lot of the stuff that sounds like Void Slaughter, but whenever I listen back to some of the stuff, whenever I'm trying to get inspo for what we're doing for the new stuff, I genuinely do enjoy listening back to the stuff we've put out. And it's not really sucking your own dick to say that you want to be happy with the stuff that you're putting out at the end of the
Yeah,
day. So I totally agree with that sentiment. Yeah, you really want to you just want to you want to love what you're putting out, especially if you're especially if you're in a position where it doesn't matter if the music flops or not. If being a musician is your go-to and that is how you're making your money, I can see why people would just put out music to make sure that they're still getting their income, and I totally get that. But if you're in a position where your sole purpose is just for enjoying it, yeah, absolutely, just put everything you can into it to enjoy what you're putting out.
amen to that for sure. So just before we wrap this up, I'd like to say thank you again for doing this with me. It's been a lot of fun. It's been good chat. Everybody keep an eye out for new Voice Lot stuff. Check out Crimson Mist. It's different, but I assure you it's good. I don't talk about pish music when on here or on anywhere that I'm at. I only shout out things I like, you know. Unless it's like funny, like all that shit with Trapped back in like COVID, because that's hilarious and it will forever be hilarious. Or if it's Chris Barnes, that's the rule.
Well, yes, yeah, exactly.
Fucking oh my god, just before we wrap up on the Chris Barnes thing, I listened to because they put out a new album this year, and obviously the last one it became like viral because of the
Yeah, yeah.
but now in this new one there's no e's, and I'm like,
He's obviously,
what?
yeah, he's caught on to it and he's like, I'm not doing it anymore. It's like
Like, well, I'm not doing it.
yeah, exactly. We've all kind of poked him like, go on,
Come
say the
on.
line, Chris Barnes. he's like,
It's like that fucking fat kid from Shrek. Just do the roar.
yeah, do the E. But
Do the
it's just like,
thing.
nope, he's not doing it anymore.
So it's like that was the one thing we could laugh at, and like we were saying like ages ago, I would rather listen to something that's downright bad than something boring, because with the
Yeah,
thing that's bad,
exactly.
you can make fun of
At
it.
least, yeah, there's some merit. There's still some merit to it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you again for doing this. Thank you everyone else for watching. I should get this edited and uploaded tomorrow, if not some point Friday or something. It'll be uploaded this week. Keep an eye out for Void Slaughter. They're going to start playing shows and stuff. It's going to be great. It's going to be another thing with like the Scottish death metal scene, which has just been fucking exploding at the moment. And each of these bands has their own thing, and that's what I really like as well. Like you've got the super doomy, sludgy stuff with Rancid Cadaver, the weird like atmospheric grindy stuff with Penny Coffin, the punk stuff with Coffin Mulch, the kind of more melodic atmospheric stuff with Void Slaughter. It's going to be great, and this scene's only going to get better and better. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that internet stuff. I'll read all the comments even though there are none. I'll just sit here and pretend I'm losing my mind. But thank you again everyone for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.